Hi everyone, I'm Jay and this is the Camden Stitch and welcome back to the Sewing on a Budget series. I'm filming while it's cool. Obviously I need the light, so I film next to two big windows, but in the afternoon it's absolutely boiling in here, and I have lights on as well, which add a lot of heat. And it's just, if you're in the UK, then you just know how difficult it is at the moment dealing with heat. I'm in the middle of central London. It's been in 35 degrees or more. It's been about 38 on the balcony. It's been about 33 inside. And you know me, look at me, I'm not the sort of person that wants to be in the sunshine. Thank you so much for all the comments in response to the last vlog. Carry on popping your little tips in the comments and I will try and do a little bit of a roundup of them at the end of this series. I love to hear your money saving tips. I love to hear how you strategize or prioritize between your spending priorities. I really love chatting about this topic. It's quite interesting and thought-provoking, isn't it? Today we're going to be talking about machines and how you can get the absolute best value when you're buying a sewing machine. I've got a pretty expensive machine now, but that machine has actually cost a lot less than you would think when I actually work out how much I've paid for it, and that's because I have bought and sold quite strategically with my sewing machines, which has meant that I have never lost any money on a machine, and sometimes I've gained a little bit as well, and all that has meant that I've been able to keep on upgrading. Which is kind of the opposite of how things normally go with these big purchases, isn't it? Someone in the comments of the last vlog said that sewing machines are very much like cars in that they lose half the value once you take them out of the showroom, and I 100% agree with that. What normally happens is you buy things, they depreciate, you sell them on for obviously quite a bit less, and then you buy something else new, and so you're paying the premium for it being new. And really, I've kind of never really been in that habit because I prefer to buy things secondhand wherever I can, just because I think you just get a lot better value for money. Today I'm going to be telling you about how to get sewing machines free, cheapest or cheaper, and starting with where you can get free machines. Lots and lots of people have unused machines lying around. You might have an elderly relative who used to sew a lot, but then they've got to a point in their life that they're no longer able to sew. It is worth asking around, particularly if you know people who work in big offices. Ask your partner who works in the office to ask around, because often someone will say, oh, our neighbour or our so-and-so, my aunt's got one that she'd love somebody to use. Because obviously if you've got a sewing machine that you can't use anymore, you really want it to go to a good home where somebody is going to love it. Often people would much prefer that their machines had usage. So if it's possible at all, I would definitely say it's worth asking around to see if anybody has an unused machine that you could either borrow to get to see if you like that particular brand of machine, or if they might just donate it to you. If that's not possible, then I would definitely advise having a look at the free cycle networks. Again, this is somewhere that people might be getting rid of stuff. Maybe they've had an elderly relative who's died. They don't want to list everything on eBay, and the house clearance person has said that they wouldn't get any money for this machine. They pop it on free cycle, and that's how I got my first machine. And actually I didn't realise it at the time, but it was a very good quality machine. It was a Janome 425S, which now I go to college for sewing. It's actually the same machine that they use in all the studios, and I'm told that it's used in schools and colleges across the country because it's extremely hard wearing. It was a great machine. I sewed on it until I wanted to upgrade, and when I decided to upgrade, I passed it on, not actually through free cycle, but I asked on my Facebook group of friends if anybody would like it, and a friend who I know who is a comedian said that she would like to learn to sew, and so I passed it on to Louise, and I'm really happy that it went somewhere that it was actually going to get used and loved, and a good home. And I could have sold that machine, but actually I kind of wanted to pass it on for free because I got it for free, and give somebody else the chance to get into sewing for no money, the same way that I did. So I think that getting one for free, you're not going to get the poshest machine in the world, But that doesn't matter. When you go into sewing, it's not worth spending a lot of money on a machine in the early days. You don't know whether that habit is going to take off for you. You might find that you don't have enough time to do it, or you might find that you just don't really enjoy it. What I will say is that getting a machine for free requires a bit of dedication and patience. You probably won't be able to go onto FreeCycle and find one listed there straight away. If you do, then you're extremely lucky. I waited for, I think, about a year or 8 months asking around, and in the end a FreeCycler who I developed a relationship with because I donated stuff to her that she'd picked up from my house said that she had one that she would be happy to pass on to me. And again, I think that the reason that she passed it on to me is because we just established a bit of relationship, and she knew that I was going to treat it right and give it lots of love and give it lots of use, and I wasn't just having it to sell on. So it does require a little bit of persistence and patience and searching FreeCycle networks. I think there's a free network called Freegal as well. Check your area, but FreeCycle's one that I've always used, and they've had groups in whatever city I've been in. You just have to sign up. And to be honest, it's a great way of getting rid of all your unwanted stuff. And if you're on a budget, it's a great way of getting new stuff too. I've had furniture from there. When I moved from a house with a garden, I gave away all my plants on there. And, you know, to very, very grateful people. And it's kind of a much more rewarding transaction in some ways than just selling something, because you know that that person is going to really, really appreciate what you're giving them and really kind of care about it. So those are the ways that you can get a sewing machine for free. They are not quick and they are not easy, but it is possible. Next, we're going to go on to how you can get a machine for cheapest. The cheapest way, I would say, of buying a machine is buying one on Gumtree. But there are lots of kind of pitfalls associated with buying on Gumtree. It really requires quite a lot of research and involvement. When you buy something on Gumtree, you don't have any protections in the same way that you do when you buy something on eBay. When you buy on eBay, you pay with PayPal, and eBay has a lot of protections for you as a buyer, and PayPal also has protections. When you buy on Gumtree, it's usually a cash transaction, or they might ask you to pay PayPal friends and family, which doesn't give you any protection. Now, they're not doing that because they want to swindle you. They're doing that because if you pay with the type of PayPal that gives you protection as a buyer, then that incurs fees for them as the seller. And if you're selling something on Gumtree, you don't want to lose money by getting less money because of fees. And I think that's completely understandable. But what I would say is it's really important to develop a relationship with the person that you're buying off. I don't mean you need to go around for tea. I just mean you need to have a bit of a chat with them, see what their motivations are for buying, see what their motivations are for selling, and check that you're comfortable with buying that product from them. If you're buying a sewing machine, always test out that it's working before you take it away, before you hand over any money. Don't just accept that they're giving it you with a piece of fabric in that's got stitches on it. You need to sit down and not just watch it being sewed, but you need to actually thread it up yourself and sew a few stitches on it so that you can see that it's working properly before you take it away. Now, not everybody wants to do that, and it does take a little bit of nerve and kind of negotiation, but there are dodgy people out there, but the vast majority of people aren't dodgy. They are just people like you and I who want to sell something. They want to be honest about any flaws that it might have. They want to make sure that the buyer is happy. And so I think you need to go into these transactions on that basis, starting to think that, well, I need to be careful of any pitfalls, but I also need to trust these people to believe what they're saying, basically. Now, I think in consumer law, you would actually be protected if, for instance, you got something home and it didn't do what it said it was, and it would say was faulty. However, you would have a real job trying to pursue that through the courts. And do you really want to? No, you want to avoid that situation happening. I have bought some excellent machines on Gumtree. One machine that I got from Gumtree, I got it for just slightly over about a third of its value. So I got something that for around £200 that should be retailing at around £600-700. The reason I got that is because I don't think the chap who was selling it really understood the value of what he was selling. He was selling it on behalf of his wife, and she had upgraded her machine. So if you're buying something from somebody, you need to know why they're selling it. Now, she was a member of the Create and Craft Club, and she had upgraded her new machine to one that they were selling on there. It all sounded pretty plausible. The chap gave me his name and address. I googled him. He actually told me he was a former police officer. I googled him and checked that out, and he was a former police officer. No guarantee he wasn't bent, but he was who he said he was, and he lived where he said he did, because that came up with a quick Google search. So I know it sounds like I was kind of trying to be Sherlock Holmes, but basically I was just verifying that he was who he said he was, and I think that's completely legitimate if you're thinking about handing over a couple of £100. So the way that I secured that deal was I engaged with the chap. I was polite and friendly. I asked intelligent questions, but not too many questions, because you know, you don't want to be entering into a long correspondence relationship with somebody. You just basically want to get the information that you need. Now, a really top tip for buying on eBay and on Gumtree is to ignore it when people say local delivery only. The reason that a lot of people say that is because they do not want to be faffed dealing with couriers, and fair enough, it is a bit of a faff. However, if you are nice to them and chat to them and promise to take all the hard work out of it, and that you will arrange the courier, you will pay for the courier, and you will ensure that the courier calls at a time to suit them so they don't have to wait in all day, quite often that person will say, oh yeah, no problem. And that is how I've bought both of my last machines actually on eBay and Gumtree, by ignoring the collection only, having a nice chat with the person and saying, I'm really interested in this, however, I can't get to where you are, and I've got a good courier company that I use. You do need to check. Sewing machines are an excluded item on a lot of courier companies. I think Hermes is the only company that I've found that will take them. There may be one or two other ones, but Hermes is the only one that I've found. But loads of them won't take a sewing machine. If you send a sewing machine through them, even if you pay insurance, you won't be insured, so don't take that risk. Always pay for the insurance when you go through a courier as well. It's worth it, because they throw those boxes around like nobody's business. So yeah, you are having to trust that person will properly package the thing up to make sure it doesn't get damaged in transit. You could potentially have an issue if it's damaged in transit, because the vendor could say, well, I packaged it, it was fine when it left here, and the courier could say, well, it wasn't packaged correctly. So you do have to be aware that you are taking some risks. With me, this particular machine was such a good deal that I thought it was worth a punt, and sure enough it was. Got the machine, I paid £100 for it to be serviced, and it needed a small replacement part, because obviously I didn't know if it had been serviced in the time that this woman had it. It needed a small replacement part, so I paid for that. So it cost me a little bit of money. I had to invest in that. I did have to take some big risks. I transferred the money to this chap by bank transfer, so again, none of the protections of PayPal. And I had to trust that he would dispatch it, but I chatted to him. He told me that he was retired, and that, you know, he would be in at so-and-so. And at the end of the day, I just took the decision to trust him. It paid off. I got a brilliant machine for half the price. So buying on Gumtree, cheap but risky. I wouldn't advise it unless you're used to dealing with these sort of transactions, or you're pretty confident in dealing with these transactions and assessing risks. But you can also get a great deal on eBay, and that is by doing what I've suggested and ignoring the local collection only. By the way, you will obviously find people who do genuinely only want it local collected, don't want to faff about with couriers, and you have to absolutely respect that. You also have to respect that they have stated that they don't want couriers, so when you're asking them, you have to do it in a really nice, respectful way, otherwise they're just going to get annoyed with you. Sometimes it isn't very easy on eBay to choose the right delivery options, and sometimes people just do it for the easiest thing. They may not know how to choose that you can have two types of options, courier delivery and local. It is just worth asking. I have several times I've been successful. So the first machine that I upgraded to, which was my Janome, which was a beautiful machine, loved it. It's the one that Tilly uses in all her I don't think she sews on it, but in all her publicity, she used it in her studios. I bought that from a lady on eBay. Again, I established a relationship with her. I explained that I was in London, it was impossible to collect. Would she be interested in courier? She said yes. Had a bit of a chat to her. We got chatting about sewing. She'd just never taken to it. I knew that that was true because in her other items that she'd listed, she was listing a whole load of sewing books, which I actually bought as well for 99p each, and I got them posted in the same bundle as the sewing machine, so I didn't have to pay any postage on them, so I basically got them for almost nothing. Now, because on her listing, the eBay listing, it was showing as local pickup only, that massively narrows down the number of people who would be bidding for that, because it's instead of bidding against the whole of the UK who might be wanting a sewing machine, you're bidding against people who can collect from that local area. So far fewer people in the market. Because I got over that and she said that she'd do a courier collection for me, I was the only bidder and I got it for the starting price. Now that was a really, really good deal. If you're bidding for something on eBay, you need to have in mind what is your upper limit, and you need to be prepared to stop at that upper limit. If you feel you're one of these people that gets an itchy bidding finger, then ask somebody else to bid for you and ask them to stop at the upper limit. Obviously you can set an auto bid on eBay, but sometimes you want to be there when the auction closes so that you can actually see what's happening. But if you think that that's going to lead you to overpaying for something, then I wouldn't advise doing that. We're talking here today about saving money, not about getting lured into kind of paying more and more on an auction site. So you can find some great deals on eBay. I would say always vet your seller, always check their feedback, always check what other items they're selling. If they're flogging loads of sewing machines, they might be a dealer, they might be an enthusiast, they might be somebody like me. The reason I bought quite a few machines is because basically I wanted to try quite a few out before I decided which one I was going to settle on. I don't find it very easy in a dealer's to properly get a feel for a machine. I want to actually buy one and sew on one for a couple of weeks, you know, before I decide, maybe even a month. However, I don't want to lose a load of money doing that. I don't want to lose £100 every time I buy and sell a new machine. So that's why I've been quite canny about buying and selling machines. So eBay is a great way. Make sure that you get the postage insurance, that you have got the buyer protection, that you've checked the feedback, and that you've established a relationship with the person who you're buying off. If you are happy with all those things, you know why the person is selling the machine, then go ahead with the transaction. Make sure you check it against what the going rate is for that machine to make sure that you're not overpaying. Check it against other machines on eBay, but also check it against what dealerships are selling it for. Dealerships will usually have a slightly higher price for selling machines second hand. That's because they tend to offer warranties, which you don't get when you buy something on eBay. But do make sure that you're not overpaying. But by using eBay in the ways I've suggested, you can get yourself some really, really good bargains. Right, let's talk about the final way of buying a cheap machine. Is not the cheapest way, but cheaper than buying one new, is to buy one second hand from a dealer, which is what I did when I upgraded to my Juki, which is the most expensive machine I've bought. I knew that I really wanted a top of the range machine with bells and whistles that could deal with fine fabrics, deal with heavy fabrics. I toyed with lots of ideas. I visited quite a few dealers, bought a few secondhand, tried them out, thought about getting a mechanical machine, thought about getting an industrial machine, and in the end I settled on the Juki that I've got, not the actual model that I've got, but the range. So I went to a dealership outside London to try out a few machines and really liked the Juki. I liked the machine, but I didn't like the dealer, so I knew that I didn't want to buy from this particular dealership. I looked online at various dealers, and Frank Nutt sells second-hand machines. I'd had lots and lots of recommendations for Frank Nutt because I posted in the Fold Line group on Facebook about my search for a new machine. An incredible incredibly helpful group if you're doing something that you need a lot of research for, because people are very willing to share their knowledge. And lots of people had recommended Franknut. They're based in Birmingham, which is obviously the heart of the kind of rag trade. They sell some machines second hand, and they happened to have the top of the range model of the range that I was interested in. So it worked out quite considerably cheaper for me to buy the top of the range one second hand than to buy the bottom of the range one new. So it made real sense for me to get it second hand. It had the same warranty as buying a new machine. I trusted the dealer. The dealer deals with couriers, so I knew that I wouldn't have to travel to Birmingham to pick it up. And it's been brilliant. It has had one problem with the auto bobbin winder, and the dealership were fine and immediately sent a courier to pick it up and mended it within a week and returned it to me by courier. They footed the bill of all the transportation of it, so no risk there as far as I was concerned. So because it was such a financial investment, so even though I was buying it second hand, it wasn't cheap. It was still, I think it was £800 or £900. It was a lot of money. It was a big investment. So I definitely wanted to minimise my risk on this. I always say, never gamble more than you can afford to lose. When I was talking about the machine that I got from Gumtree, I was prepared to gamble the 180 quid that machine cost if it hadn't turned up, but I wouldn't have gambled 900 quid. So you have to definitely evaluate your risks when you're buying and selling in the ways that I'm describing. So I would recommend Franknut as a dealership. I don't have any relationship with them, by the way, no sponsorship or anything like that. But you may have a dealer that you trust as well. I would say it's just a great way of buying secondhand from a dealer is, I'd say, as good as buying new, for a fraction of the cost. Most people want what they perceive as security of buying new. If you buy from a dealer, you get all that security, and you're not paying the markup. New products have such a premium for that perceived security and perhaps prestige or status as well. I think maybe some people just like the feeling of it being new. I like the feeling that I'm not putting more stuff into landfill and we're not creating more crap that we don't need. And I like the feeling that I've sought out the best value. We're all different, aren't we? I really hope that these tips that I've given you today have been helpful. I would love to know how you source your own sewing machines. Have you ever had a free machine? Have you ever had a bad experience buying online? Is there anything that you'd like to warn other people about? Because I'd love to share your tips and experiences when I do a roundup at the end of this series. It's been lovely chatting to you about this today. I think sewing on a budget is probably like my favourite thing ever, because I know I get really animated when I talk about saving money like some kind of Scrooge. If you enjoyed the vlog today, give us the old thumbs up, mate. That's my worst ever Cockney accent. Give us a thumbs up, and if you enjoyed it, click on the subscribe button and the ding ding bell, and then you'll get a notification every time I release a new vlog. That's all from me today. Bye bye from Camden. Bye. Hello everyone, I'm Jay and this is the Camden Stitch. Oh, and I just kicked the tripod.